Who is your favorite character in the MCU? This is a commonly heard question from our childhood. What if someone said their favorite character is Black Widow? Then surely, a lot of questions may follow asking why they like Black Widow. Black Widow is a strong character, but we should know that there is not much choice when it comes to female characters in the MCU. Marvel has exhibited a frustrating pattern with their leading female characters. What will it take to make it stop? It's a common complaint that Marvel's female characters aren't written as well as the male counterparts. Overall, they fall flat and aren't very interesting. This stems from what is usually really poor writing for the characters, although that's just Marvel as a whole right now, an anonymous forum respondent stated. We think that one of the main causes of this problem is Marvel's inability to distinguish between a female superhero and a female superhero. There is a thin line between how a person's gender shapes their identity via experiences and how it shapes their identity just by virtue of being. They're very underappreciated and in some scenarios heavily stereotyped. Brie Larson even struggled with Captain Marvel because she had to do the minor role in Endgame before she had filmed the Captain Marvel movie, meaning she had not been given many contexts to the character that she was playing, wrote another respondent in a Google form. Because they lack nuance, many of the female characters come across as cliched and uninteresting. Using Black Widow as an example once more, it is evident that her gender is an integral aspect of who she is. She had been the female Avenger from the start. They didn't start examining how her gender affects her experiences and how those experiences affect her identity until much later when her character grew. Their gender does not directly impact a person's character. It affects how people are viewed, treated, and responded to by society. It is a person's response to this that determines their character. Marvel writers appear to overlook these experiences that are shaped by how society views a person's gender while developing their female characters. It is impossible to discuss female superheroes without mentioning the debate regarding their sexualization. While this issue has certainly improved in the past few years, the early generation Marvel certainly struggled with portraying their female characters in a respectful light. At times, the costume choices for female characters are, compared to the men, far more revealing or impractical. Other female characters are made into comic relief characters or given skin-tight suits that wouldn't even be useful in a fight, one respondent said. A significant contributor to the issue of sexualization is not just the character design, but the fact that a skin-tight suit has to compensate for a lack of depth and personality. I think there's a big difference between the comic books and the movies. Growing up reading comic books made me feel empowered, seen, and strong. Watching the earlier movies with an adult perspective, the women were often overlooked or sexualized, but grew over time into something better. I think they are great representations of strong women in power in the more recent films, another anonymous respondent wrote. It's not always a terrible idea to have more revealingly dressed female characters. If the character is well written and the writers consider the reasoning behind the character's decision to wear what they wear, it can be done quite nicely. However, when a female character is depicted wearing a skimpy costume and lacks personality, it's usually because the character exists primarily to please the viewer's eye. The idea of catering to the audience is a great way to introduce the second, and maybe most important, issue with the negative portrayal of women in contemporary Marvels. With a massive fan base and a franchise the size of Marvel, the business must strike a balance between pleasing its customers and growing the franchise. A number of factors, including a male-dominated audience in the past, led to the two-dimensionality and lack of relatability of female Marvel heroes. This included over-sexualization, a lack of character development and investigation, and ultimately the pressure to produce a compelling persona from two opposing points of view. The task is certainly not easy, as is evident, but Marvel is slowly improving. More recent female superheroes have been a bit more diverse and developed, but I think it's only a start for Marvel, a respondent said. A survey respondent praised the Scarlet Witch's development, saying, "The audience was able to follow her tragic descent into madness, and despite the story being a bit shaky due to some poor writing decisions near the end, ultimately, I believe her character was very interesting to watch," respondent Brian shared. At the same time, another praised Black Widow, the notorious initial victim of the evolving Marvel female writing. Even Black Widow improved throughout the Avengers saga, with Infinity War and Endgame giving her character a satisfying conclusion, where she was able to turn her pain into something positive by sacrificing herself to get an Infinity Stone. This analysis of some of the reasons behind the feeling of disconnect between the representation of women in Marvel is meant to draw attention to the issue that has for so long been acknowledged but not typically explored. Hopefully in the future, Marvel will continue to approach characters with an open mind and a desire to create personalities with actual depth and relatability, as opposed to the simple catering of an audience. I am very excited to see more of these stories develop, and I am hopeful that more women, people of color, and the LGBT+ community are able to contribute to the creative processes in big studios and develop well-rounded characters to bring new life to the MCU, says Brian, and I could not agree more. Given that most viewers of the traditional superhero genre were men, it's possible that early Marvel female heroes were expected to do little more than look beautiful in their costumes. But as time passes and the viewership rises, there is an increasing need for complexity and inclusion. I think they also often make characters whose main attraction is that they are women instead of making characters who have good and interesting stories because they want to seem inclusive, said an anonymous respondent. I think a perfect example is the scene in Endgame that felt out of place and was just put in to make them seem more inclusive. I think they can make a great women character, but they just don't, they continued. Another respondent mentioned a similar topic. Sometimes it seemed as if Marvel was using its female characters purely as a way of pulling in a bigger audience. While this isn't necessarily a bad thing, I believe it did lead to some of their storylines suffering as a result, wrote respondent Brian. They go on to mention how female characters tend to play minor or supporting roles for their male counterparts, especially in older movies. However, as representation is becoming more common in media, I believe Marvel is learning that one-dimensional female characters aren't going to cut it anymore. Both the audience and the characters deserve storylines that develop their humanity. Marvel appears to be making an effort to strengthen and expand their representation by adding more prominent female characters. Nevertheless, their relatability seems to be eclipsed by their goal to create a broad appeal to their audience. Through the gaps in these hurriedly created personalities lie hidden agendas to appease the viewer. An anonymous respondent stated, most of the time, they push their agenda too hard, and it's actively hurting the success of the female cast. But Marvel has a difficult balance to strike when it comes to the task of creating more nuanced female characters. There is another side to the story. Fanboys who just don't like the female characters, even if it seems like there is a need for more female characters, and that Marvel is working to create fully realized female heroes. In today's world, institutionalized and cultural misogyny remains pervasive. There will inevitably be some opposition to change, even though it might not be as strong as it once was when it comes to material that was formerly primarily consumed by men, like superhero movies. Marvel's female characters must appease not only those who support them and look to them for representation, but also those who do not. Writing a good female character is far harder when there is a conflict between viewers than when there is no market pressure. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is ultimately a source of amusement. However, it must be acknowledged that this form of entertainment is extremely influential due to its remarkable popularity. Even if one believes they have no obligation to offer fully realized, multifaceted female characters, you cannot deny that they, at the very least, need to acknowledge this powerful reality, given that millions of children are growing up watching the MCU movies and television episodes. Hopefully, if Marvel continues in this direction, we'll see more nuanced and accurate portrayals of women in upcoming motion pictures. The outcomes thus far have been uneven. In the Hawkeye series, Kate Bishop was a lively, self-reliant, and strong character, yet Cassie Lang devoted most of Quantumanium to running in circles and calling out for her father. The conflicting reactions to the recent female-led movie The Marvels, as reviews start to roll in, only serve to highlight the audience's nuanced views on contemporary female superheroes. What do you think of the future of female characters in the MCU? Will there be any improvement in the current situation? Tell us in the comments. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it entertaining, then don't forget to hit that like button below. And if you want to stay updated with more great content like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel by clicking the red button and just ringing the notification bell so you'd never miss any future content from us. Your support means the world.